Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're going to be doing another installment of the weekly meta breakdown. For those of you who are new to the channel, what we do each week is look at the top performing decks on the MTG Arena ladder for each format that there is, both best of one and traditional best of three. Each of the videos is separated. We usually release them like a couple days throughout the week, kind of space them out. And if you're interested in any of the past videos, current videos, there's always a playlist. You can check it out. And we get the data from this from Untapped GG. It's a companion tool that runs alongside your Arena client, tracks your win rates, loss rates, deck collection syncing, a whole bunch of useful utilities. So when we're doing this, we're not just arbitrarily saying, this deck's busted, 100% win rate. We have actual stats to back it up, and we can see how folks are playing and kind of see week over week trends and stuff like that. So this video in particular is for standard best of one. If you want to use Untapped, it's free for most of its functionality. The link is in the video description, as well as I'll paste these deck lists from the best of one meta into the video description as well if you want to import it. But if you install Untapped, you just click like copy to MTGA and you can import it right into your game client. So that being said, this is standard best of one, June 19th to the 26th. Platinum to Mythic rank, 220,000 games of Magic were played in the best of one format. The top performing deck of the week is Boros Burn, which has been the top performing deck for like a month and a half. This is a very aggressively slanted Boros aggro deck. They call it Burn, but could be aggro. Basically a burn, hasty, modified creature synergy deck. So you have stuff like Hopeful Initiate that gets counters on it. Kumano puts counters on your creatures when it enters based on Chapter 2. Bloodthirsty can flash back your spells, as well as get counters on it. Luminarch puts counters on things. Brutal Cathar is some removal, along with Roil Eruption and Play with Fire. Sunrise Cavalier. There's been so many good white drops, and this one has just been killing it in best of one recently. Plays really well in this deck. You get counters, day or night cycle. It has trample, it has haste. You can make really large creatures in this deck. Then you have Thundering Raiju, 4 mana, kind of Hell Rider kin. When it attacks, you put counters on things and then deal damage equal to the number of modified creatures you have. This version this week has had a slight variation. Historically, they've been playing 4 Bloodthirsty Adversaries. This week, they've added a Rabbit Battery for haste. That'll give like Hopeful Initiatives or Luminarch Aspirants or Brutal Cathar's haste as well. So this is kind of like what we do each week. We kind of look at the trends, seeing what's changing in some of these tier decks, so you can keep adapting to the meta. I've seen some versions as well play Angel Fire Ignition, even just playing that as a one-off sometimes, maybe instead of Rabbit Battery. The Life Swing plays really well into the mirror matches. Next up, Jeskai Control, Jeskai Hinata. This deck is the best deck in best of 3, and it's kind of a port over to best of 1. The combination of Hinata Dawn Crowned lets you reduce the cost when you target things. So Magma Opus, if there's enough targets on the board, costs 2 mana in this deck. So the old 2 mana, deal 4 damage, draw 2 cards, tap 2 things, get a 4/4. Seems like okay value. It is then a Fabled Mirror Breaker Goldspan Dragon deck. You can kind of just pop off making copies of Reflection or copies of Goldspan, kind of go to town. The rest of the deck, you got a variety of removal spells in here, some counter spells, as well as card advantage and Expressive Iteration, and a cheeky Hall of the Storm Giants hiding out in there. Up next, Orzov Angels. So this is a 63% win rate deck. So this deck usually is good into creature heavy metas because you can just outgain the life on them. And if we look at this, like Boros Burn, they don't really have a way to deal 4 damage that well. Like Roil Eruption, you're not really going to pay 7 mana. You have Brutal Cathars that could sometimes hit it at timely, like Play with Fire or like through blocks. But ideally you want to gain a bunch of life with Righteous Valkyrie. Giada pumps up your other subsequent angels. You got some Wandering Emperors in here. Infernal Grasp, Bloodchief's Thirst. We're not seeing as much in terms of banishing verse style decks, so it plays pretty well. You have Furjas. I like just saying Furja. Retribution. Gets you an angel, could be kind of removal, and then a kind of a combo kill with double strike. You got some card advantage, Inspiring Overseer. Elspeth gets you some card advantage, lifelink, whatever's relevant keyword soup. Liaison, the top end, as just a really efficient beater. Lifelink helps you swing So this deck does have the tools in a way to kind of race or kind of keep up with the Boros Burn deck. Up next, Mono White Aggro. Now, Mono White, again, has been a deck that's been around as long as time. This version here, what we're really just looking to see is what's the configuration of the 3-drops, and are they playing Wandering Emperor or not. So this version is playing the 4 of Wandering Emperor. Sometimes we see him on 2 Legion Angels, sometimes we see him on no 4-drops. We see 2 Redains, 4 Spellbinders, 3 Brutal Cathars, 3 Adelines. I actually, given like the top decks right now, don't love this. This isn't very good into the Boros Burn matchup. I would almost rather see like the Skyclave Apparitions in here, as well as Thalias. I probably play 3 of. But these are kind of like the nuanced things that you kind of have to see with the Mono White. You really are you on like a kind of lower number of Thalias to play like more 1-drops, or are you playing like Fateful Absence at times, or Portable Hole, or are you on like the 6 to 8 Exile style 3-drops? So little things like that. But then you are playing a heavier number of creature lands in this. Interesting, well, you're on a Field of Ruin in this version. 3 colorless should be fine. Otherwise, you're playing 24 lands. So 21 colored, you should be okay in that version. Up next, Mono Green Stompy. This version of Mono Green's at 60%. Very good into the Hinata deck. It can keep up with Boros, but not really having a huge amount of removal. You have the Blizzard Brawl inscriptions, but those matchups likely come down to whether or not you draw them or not. This version is on Sculptor of Winter, that's looking to take you from 2 to 4 mana, ideally, to go to Eska's Chariot. And then ideally, you know, turn 3, Eska's Chariot, turn 4, Invoke the Ancients, copy the tokens is a really good kind of curve out draw. Card advantage in Werewolf Pack Leader. And similar to Mono White, what we want to look at in Mono Green is, are they a Rangers class deck? Are they not? Typically, like Rangers class comes in some substitutions with Sculptor of Winter, kind of played into there. Sometimes they'll be on Ascendant Pack Leader, sometimes not. This version's opting for 2 Snakeskin Veils in the main. 25 lands. You're a little bit higher curve, but you got some utility lands as well. Nayaya Humans. This is a Mono White aggro deck, very similar to what we just saw in Mono White, but you're splashing in red and green for Halana and Alana, and Sigarda, Champion of Light. Card advantage, Pump Haste, gets you a lot of big creatures. Plays very similar to Mono White, just less kind of interaction and more smack you in the face really hard. Kind of going from there. Kind of went over Mono Whites. I'm not going to do too detailed, but you have a lot of the same kind of cards that you see here. If you want to look at the list individually cards, like I said, I'll paste the deck list in the video description. We have a different Naya deck, Naya Ruins. So Naya Ruins kind of abuses a synergy between Jukai Naturalist and Runeforge Champion. Jukai Naturalist, so this is a lesson on layering for those of you who aren't familiar. Runeforge Champion substitutes the casting cost of your runes. So instead of costing, say, 1 in green, it's just cost 1. Now, Jukai Naturalist reduces the cost by 1. So then that way all your runes are free, lets you basically cast a bunch for 0 mana and draw a bunch of cards. And the way to kind of abuse that is with either like Generous Visitor to put counters on things, Kami of Transience to get very large, or Showdown of the Skalds, which puts a lot of counters on things as well. We've seen some versions play Reflection of the Kiki. This version's opting to go with Circle of Confinement to have some interaction against the more creature-based decks in the format. This deck can hit very hard, very explosive as well. Then we have Rockdose Sacrifice. This is a Rakdos Onicult Anvil deck, 59%. And really what this deck here is looking to do is nickel and dime your opponent. Little drain of life here, like, oh, could I shave off 2 life? What if you lose a life here? And, oh, here's my creature that dies, but then I get another creature back that I sack to draw cards with Deadly Dispute. Or like Voltaic Surge is a nice flexible 1 mana removal spell. Card advantage was like Synthesizer, Deadly Dispute. So really good on Nixus Shell. You have a bunch of cheap creatures that you don't care about sacrificing. And then the tokens die. You got Meat Hook that you're using as a more of aggressive threat. In terms of like the subtext, in terms of lose life, gain life, plays really well with like Onicult Anvil. So if you like Aristocrats, Catavan style decks, this is a deck to check out. And then lastly, Mono Black. They call it Mono Black Control, Mono Black Aggro, Mono Black Midrange. So this is a more aggressively slanted version of the deck. We've seen like Blood on the Snow, heavier removal versions. But like this one's got like Okiba Reckoner Raider to like make your opponent lose some life. You got some removal and Bloodchief's Thirst, Infernal Grasp, some Hand Hate and Duress. Then like 4 of Tainted Adversary, 4 of Underdog, 4 of Trespasser, 4 of Shakedown Heavy, just to kind of attack into your opponent. You got Nighthack Scavenger, and then some Invoke Despairs as your top end. And similar to the mono white deck, we're seeing like a Crawling Baron's Hive setup. So those versions just looking to smack your opponent as hard as possible, refill your hand with some Invoke Despairs as well. So that's it, or best of one standard. Let me know what you're playing right now. If I missed any decks, and kind of go from there. These are kind of the standouts or interesting decks. If there's like slight if there's 2 mono white aggro decks and one's got 4 Wandering Emperors, one's got 3, I'm going to take the one with the higher win rate. We're not going to go through case by case, but in any case, if you do enjoy this type of video, greatly appreciate it if you can. Drop a like, comment, and if you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to the channel. You get to know whenever we come live with a new meta video or gameplay video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great one, and stay safe out there.